Hey, and welcome to a quick, very empty talk about weird package types, what you can do with Chocolatey packages that you might not expect. First up, we're going to quickly cover what a package is. And at the base level, it's just a zip file with a bunch of files in. So, well, actually, it's a new peg, or however you want to say that. We'll take votes in a second. But that is essentially a zip. And in there, you've got a bunch of different file types, which we're going to treat very slightly differently depending on the ID of the package. You might think, well, what kind of IDs will get treated differently? Non-exhaustively, at the basic level, you've got .extension packages, .hook packages, and .template packages. And we're just going to go into a couple of those and show you what they are, what they can do, and why you might be interested. So, from a very basic level, you've got extension packages, and these basically extend the stuff you can do in Chocolatey. If you're not aware, Chocolatey basically relies on a helper module that loads a selection of PowerShell functions to operate on the files that you've got. So there's stuff like getWebFile, install Chocolatey package, and that sort of thing. So we've got a bunch of helpers that are already there, but if you want to extend them, you can just add a PowerShell module to your Chocolatey session. You do that with extension modules. So we've got stuff like the Chocolatey core extension module, which allows you to... I'm sorry, by the way, can everyone see this? Is this making... This is slightly... we're not exactly analyzing the code, but is that visible enough for everybody? Fantastic, thank you. But this is basically just a PowerShell module that has a bunch of additional functions that you can call. So, you know, getEffectiveProxy, getAppInstallLocation, this sort of thing. So very simple, and it just gets installed when you install that into the Chocolatey extensions directory within the Chocolatey install directory. Slightly differently, a hook package does a similar thing. You've got a PowerShell script that you want to run at, for example, the end of a given package's installation or before a package is installed. You can do that with a hook package. The hook files get dropped in similarly, and you can do that. You know, you can use a script, you can use a module, whatever you want. Again, it's just PowerShell under the hood. So anything you can do with PowerShell, pretty much, you could do here. So in this case, we're using something to, after a Jenkins package is installed, we're going to go and configure some stuff that we maybe don't care about. Maybe we want to use a package from the CCR, the Chocolatey Community Repository, and we just want to configure that without modifying it. We want to add a package that will configure that every time it's installed, upgraded, or whatever. And we can do that with a hook package. A third sort of similar example is a template package, which will drop a template into your goodness me. It'll drop a template into your Chocolatey install directory, allowing you to create packages with a template that's different from the standard Choco new output. If you've seen that before, you'll know it's incredibly verbose and will cover just about every type of package you want to deal with and more. So if you use a template that's a bit more cut down, such as the MSI template, then you'll get something that just has the stuff you need for an MSI package, and you can use that. There are a couple of other templates on the Chocolatey Community Repository, and they're all good. They're worth investigating. When you're getting into more serious functionality, you can see an example here of some of the Veeam packages that Maurice Kavanagh has written, which use the Chocolatey ISO mount extension. This actually allows you to download and mount an ISO quickly, and then install the files and unmount it all in one thing without having to write all that and replicate all that logic yourself. And he uses that really nicely by, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Veeam software suite, but there is a huge ISO that you need to download for a bunch of different things. But maybe you don't want to install those things on the same machine. So to get around that, you can have a dependency package that contains that ISO, unpack it, install it, install the single piece of software, and then without worrying, dismount it. And you're not going to end up with 13 different copies of the ISO, nothing like that. So just for efficiency's sake, it's great to have this stuff replicated. Sorry, not replicated. And you can use that like that, which is brilliant. In slightly more unusual territory, you can do stuff like a few years ago I presented with Manfred Wallner a package debug extension, which allows you to debug by adding a breakpoint to your Chocolatey install scripts, so you can jump in and see what's going on under the hood. So again, with extensions, you can really do just about anything you want to, as long as you can do it in PowerShell. Although, just to go into a slightly weird example, you can, for example, add functionality that is currently not in Chocolatey. So, you know, you're really getting to the point where whatever you want to do in Chocolatey, Even if it isn't currently supported, you can get there by adding extensions. So in this example, we've got package parameters, which, if you're familiar with Chocolatey packages, is not something that's necessarily the same way as you would use it in PowerShell. You might be more familiar with something that looks like this, where you've got kind of a mandatory parameter, validate set, and that sort of thing. And that doesn't currently happen when you try and pass it in Chocolatey. But with extensions, you absolutely can. So you can just install an extension. And with sufficient persistence and madness, once again, we forget to enable some kind of network connection. And we can just pass in a param that looks just the same as any other PowerShell parameter. And that'll work. So you really can do anything from setting breakpoints to adding functionality or functions with a Chocolatey package. And that's all very quick and easy. And it'd be much more impressive if I had actually enabled my network. So, that said, if you have any other questions or want to talk about anything Chocolatey, packages, or other, we're all over at the booth over there. We have about 1 billion t-shirts, so if you want 6 or 7, please come by. We're desperate. And yeah, thank you all for your time.